If you want to see a black bear in Mississippi, you're going to have to go to Jackson to the Museum of Natural Science. The bear does exist in the wild in this state, but the population is so small and the bears are so elusive that your chances of seeing a live one are just about non-existent. But that wasn't always the case. At one time, the black bear was plentiful throughout North America. The bear was found in large numbers from Canada to central Mexico. Black bear were commonly found in the canebrakes and bottomlands of Mississippi, especially in the Delta region until the late 1800s. Loss of habitat and overwhelming hunting pressure greatly reduced the bear numbers. By the early 1900s, the bear was almost wiped out in Mississippi. In 1989, the black bear joined the growing list of endangered species in Mississippi.
They are so few and far between that most people don't know that we have them in the state because they are very isolated where they are, and a lot of them on private land, some of the private land along the Mississippi River is where they are, so it's not open to public access.
Mississippi State University and the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks initiated research in 1989 to study bear habitat and populations in the state with the ultimate goal of restoring the woolly creatures to its native environment.
In Mississippi, it's very difficult to get any kind of accurate number on how many bears there are in the state. Of course, there are very few because we don't see them very often. We get an occasional roadkill. They do occasionally get killed, illegally killed, poached. Fortunately, have not had one in a couple of years, but occasionally we do have that happen. We guess maybe between 25 and 50 bears, but we're really not sure. We only have 2 bears collared in the state, one down in Wilkinson County and one in Stone County. And we're following those, finding out their movements, how big a range they have, and using that information to see how big an area we really are going to need if we're going to restore a bear in Mississippi.
Bear hunting was very popular in Mississippi until about 1880. The numbers had dwindled significantly by 1902 when President Teddy Roosevelt came to the Delta for a bear hunt. Jackson attorney Jim McCafferty is the author of 2 books on famed hunting guide Holt Collier. His book, Holt and the Teddy Bear, tells the story of Roosevelt's hunt at the Smead's plantation near Onward, Mississippi. As the story goes, Holt Collier stationed the president near a watering hole. After a long wait, Roosevelt returned to the hunting camp just before a bear showed up at the hole. The bear got a hold of one of Holt's dogs, at which point the former slave from Jefferson County clubbed the bear with his gun and tied it to a tree. The president returned to the spot along with several national reporters.
So Theodore Roosevelt refused to shoot the bear. A lot of people thought it was an act of mercy. Really, it was an act of public relations on President Roosevelt's part. He was very mindful of public relations, and that's why he didn't shoot the bear. Wire service reporters wrote the story up and sent out to their respective papers, and it was all over the country, this story about Roosevelt refusing to shoot the bear.
The story drew national attention, and political cartoonist Clifford Berryman turned it into a cartoon called Drawing the Line in Mississippi. The cartoon actually represented Roosevelt's support of an anti-lynching law before Congress. At that point, a toy maker in New York wrote to President Roosevelt to ask if he could name his toy bears teddy bears.
And Roosevelt supposedly wrote back to him and said, if you think it'll help you sell your toys, you go right ahead and do it. And he did, and was so wildly successful with his little bears that he formed the Ideal Toy Company the following year.
The black bear will probably never return to the great numbers that existed before Roosevelt's time, but many people hope to see the shy creatures make at least a small comeback in Mississippi.
And the presence of that carnivore really denotes environmental quality. So if we can establish that animal, reestablish that animal to the state of Mississippi, then it bespeaks well for the future of our environmental quality in this state.
This bear was born probably last February. He's about 1.5 years old now. This is about typical size for a 1.5 year old bear.
Pretty.
Yeah, he's been shedding. See where he shed his winter coat right here? But later on in the fall, he'll have his nice black glossy color back again.
This bear doesn't know it, but he's just joined nearly 50 other bears as a research subject. An hour ago, he was looking for some food. Now he'll be looking for his mama. This 80-pound male is part of an extensive study of the black bear begun in 1990 by the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks and Mississippi State University. Once abundant in Mississippi, the Ursus americanus is now rarely seen in the state. The 1989 listing of the black bear as an endangered species prompted this research project. Initial efforts looked at the bear's history, its current population, and the public's attitude towards restoration.
It's important to understand the bear and its habitat, but also to understand the public and the public's opinion, because regardless of how well we improve the habitat, increase the populations, if the public is not in support of that, we've lost that.
People don't know a lot about black bears. I mean, there's really no reason they should. They don't. A lot of people don't even know we have them in the state.
The second phase of the research is occurring mostly in Arkansas. The habitat here is very similar to that of Mississippi.
We spent a considerable amount of time and effort trying to capture bears in Mississippi, but unfortunately we don't seem to have enough bears in Mississippi, within the state of Mississippi, to give us enough sample size to come into a definite conclusion.
Madan Oli from India and Tom White from Tennessee are both PhD candidates at Mississippi State. They have been trapping and tracking bear here at the White River National Wildlife Refuge since the study began. There are an estimated 300 black bear in this 112,000-acre refuge, but trapping them is not easy.
Black bear is the most timid of all the bears we have in North America, and everyone we've ever caught has always been trying to get away from us. And that's their instinctive reaction when they encounter a human in the woods. The first thing they want to do is get away. Believe it or not, they are much more scared of humans than humans are of them.
The first part of trapping a bear is to find out where they are. The woods across the White River from Bobby and Linda Wade's floating house is a good place to start.
Got him a fish.
That is a big bear.
Look at that. Going right up the bank. Yep. That's all right. Sit right here and watch them.
Once they've found the bears, Tom and Darren Miller pick a spot for the trap.
It's got a spring-activated trigger, and it just cinches up like that. And then this spring on it right here spliced across a little bit of slack in the cable. That way when the bear pulls against it, there's not a sudden jolt. And this is actually works as a shock absorber to prevent the bear from damaging any of its limbs or whatever. We'll have to build up kind of like a little teepee around it so that the bear comes in from one side. Once we have it all set up, the bear comes along, we have a log across here for him to step over.
Ever get your hand caught in one of those things?
Never have. Come close.
When the snare is set and the teepee built, then comes the bear attractant. Oh, dead fish.
This is fermented fish. It's been sealed in a 5-gallon bucket about 2 days in the summer sun. And the bear seemed to be attracted to the smell.
Oh. This is the glamorous side of bear trapping.
Hopefully we'll come back in the morning and we'll have a bear here perhaps, if we're lucky. And what we'll do now is we'll go on over here. We'll go off over here maybe another 100 yards We typically don't put them that close together, but there's so many bear right here in this area. We want to go ahead and try to maximize our chances of catching one today. So we'll go ahead and go off about 100 yards, put another snare similar to this one, and then we'll go on up the river ways and put some more out. Try to get back to camp before dark.
Here's one, guys. Right there's a bear.
Yep. There it went. There went a bear.
It didn't win. Did it?
Yeah.
Yep.
It took off.
He's right there, looking at him.
Another one.
See right there?
Yeah. Right here down in front.
Yeah.
Cut away, Tom.
Come over here and you can get a clear shot of him.
See? See?
You got a collar on.
It's a radio collared bear.
When's that collar?
Is it?
You have a clear view of him there?
Not real. That's a
There
very
he
big
goes.
bear. He's
There.
probably in the mail.
Yeah. That's a yearling. Looks like a yearling bear. That's good. Good sighting.
Tom, he must be too
Great.
small. He must be too small a collar if he's a male.
We can put the ear tag transmitter on him.
He wasn't very big. Looks like a good spot.
Well, you ask us how do we know that there are bears here? That is how we know that there are bears here.
Looks like a good spot to me.
Linda helps Darren and Tom build 2 more traps in the area. She's seen the bears from across the river, but never up close.
There's a sow in here that's got 2 small cubs now. I see her quite often. Of course, she's got a lot of mouths to feed, but there's a variety of bear in this area right now. We've had the quantity has been building over the last 3 years, and we've got a lot of them. We have, well, last year we had 3 sows with cubs, and one had 3, and the other 2 had 2 cubs. But they get plenty to eat here. There's, it's a good place for them. I moved here 12 years ago, and in 12 years I've watched the deterioration of everything here, the wildlife, the aquatic life, the whole thing. I've seen how detrimental man can be too. And that's why I'm here. I just want to see what's going on. I just want to know, see firsthand what's happening. I want to make sure they're not ruining my little brothers with all the little snares.
We wouldn't do that.
Well, I don't think so, but I want to be here and see.
The traps will sit overnight, giving the bears plenty of time to find the fish. On the trip back to camp, Tom and Darren spot a collared bear.
It's one of our bears that we radio collared. You can see the ear tags in his ears and the radio collar around his neck. There's another one up there.
Another one. There's a big
Big old big boar up there.
Look at that big one up there on the top.
That's a big bear right there now. You want to jump out and set? You got time to set a snare?
No, we don't. I mean, this is common. We see this everywhere.
It was probably a female in heat and a big boar following her around.
That's what it was.
So females
Right now,
in
they're
heat,
breeding.
getting ready their breeding season is on right now. There was a boar following that female, waiting for her to get ready to breed.
Yep, that's exactly what it was. How about that?
Now you've seen 3 bears.
That was great. That was great.
The day starts early for black bear researchers here at the White River National Wildlife Refuge. Having set 3 traps the previous evening, the group leaves camp with high expectations. They've trapped nearly 50 of the endangered bears since 1990 when this project was begun. A part of the research entails trapping bears in the wild, a job made easier here in Arkansas due to the large numbers of the animal in the state. The Mississippi River acts as a natural barrier, preventing the black bear from migrating into Mississippi. While Mississippi has just 25 to 50 of the shy creatures within its boundaries, the White River Refuge alone has nearly 300.
Back in the 60s, they brought black bear down from Minnesota and Wisconsin, I believe, and released them there. And those provided the seed stock for those populations which they hunt today. We did not do that in Mississippi, and we do not intend to do that in the future. What we're looking at is restoring the populations that are here.
No, see how the sticks weren't even broken or anything. If a bear had tripped it, that would have all been messed up. Could have been a coon or something. Well, let's go and see where the rest of them went.
Some of the bears in Arkansas are smarter than others. The first trap was empty, but the second is not.
Yeah, we caught one. I wonder where they went. They may have went on down and checked the other one too, make sure we don't have two.
Everyone moves cautiously around the bear so as not to upset it. He will be sedated and treated with tender, loving care.
And what pressurizer is that in there?
It's got a built-in charge in the back of the dart. And when it impacts, it discharges. Yeah, we're gonna give him 2 cc's of this wampum ketamine mixture. That should be about a 100-pound dose. It should have him immobilized in about 6 to 8 minutes, but it varies depending on the animal. Once we finish working on him, if he's not already recovering from the tranquilizer, we've got a reversal agent that we'll go ahead and administer to him and get him up and on his feet. So should take 30, 45 minutes maybe less. He's a small bear.
The bear isn't interested in taking a nap, so Tom eases in for another dose.
Hey bear, hey bear, hey bear, hey bear, hey bear. Shh, hey bear, over here.
Once the bear is finally out, the team gets to work.
The drug immobilizes the bear, he can't blink, so we put this in his eyes to keep him from drying out. And then wrap his eyes up. Wrap his eyes up with this bandage, and it kind of keeps him calm because he can see what's going on. We also put a little Vicks in his nose to kind of keep the human scent down a little bit.
We caught 26 bears in this area last year. And both my partner Madon Ole and also Darren Miller, who was working with us today, we've all worked bears frequently. And it's a situation where when you go in there, everybody has something to do. It's too much for any one person to do. And so we all work together, and while one person's taking blood, another person's attaching a radio collar, taking body measurements, checking the body temperature to make sure the animal's not overheating. Everybody has something to do, and everybody is pretty intent and pretty busy.
Weighing just 85 pounds, this year-and-a-half-old male is too small for a radio collar. He gets 2 solar-powered ear tags instead and is sent woozily on his way.
Don't stop. Come on.
That afternoon, the crew goes upriver to check on some more traps. There are fresh signs of bear in the area, but the traps are empty. While the traps are reset, Madon picks up a few samples. Well, they have to study the bear's diet somehow.
Looks like acorn.
The next morning starts out well. This more mature female bear is big enough to get a radio collar.
We're putting small holes between where the collar's going to be attached, so if the bear grows enough to make the collar tight, this weakens the leather and allows it to expand with her as she grows. It'll break through those holes.
How long would this collar last?
The batteries will last 3 years, and we've seen, based on the deterioration that we've seen in the material from bears we caught the next year, probably the expected life of the actual harness itself would be anywhere from 3 to 5 years before it deteriorated enough that it's separated, come loose.
Arkansas Tech graduate Sean Couch is working with the team as a research technician. He gets bear weighing duty, Now, this female is in good health except for some fungus on the skin. She gets the usual treatment and is released in less than an hour. A little groggy, but okay. She'll be tracked and monitored for the next 3 years for a variety of information.
What specifically are the bears eating? When are they eating what food sources? What kinds of denning habitat are they utilizing? And what kinds of escape cover? What are the key components in their habitat? And once we identify them, we can identify suitable habitat, as we've said, and hopefully do something to bring back the bear where that habitat exists.
Go for a rump shot on this one. Okay. I mean, if a good, real good shoulder shot presents itself, go for that muscle mass on the shoulder.
The second trap of the day has a small bear. Sean gets the honors this time, but the cub doesn't care much for the dart.
Took it out. Carried my dart. Right. Sorry, Jack.
This is the smallest bear trapped on this trip. He weighs just 80 pounds and looks to be less than a year and a half old.
Yeah, he just left his mama this summer.
It may have been Mama that ran off.
Could have been his mama over yonder. Mm-hmm. We'll just put ear tags on him and take blood samples and measurements and turn him loose. Let him go back to mama.
In 3 days of trapping, this dedicated group tags 3 bears, misses 4, and sees about 10 more wandering in the woods. They've spent a lot of time away from home and family, but they all genuinely like the work and can take pride in knowing that they have laid the groundwork for the return of the black bear to Mississippi.
Oh, I love them. They are fascinating. And on top of that, they are harmless. They don't bother people to the extent other large predators do, such as tigers and leopards and snow leopards elsewhere. So they are good looking, beautiful, harmless, and they also are the symbol of wilderness in this part of the country. So for several reasons we love them.